Yo, yo, what's up, good people? The boys from the PGZ, Phantom Geek
Geek
Zone,
Zone.
back again, as
Yeah.
usual. I'm Izzy,
I'm Riyaal.
and this time around, we're going to be reviewing Thor 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, this is essentially following from, Iron
Iron Man
Man
2.
2,
Yep.
which took place just before this.
And then the event of the universe is kind of happening at the same time.
Yeah, small little overlap,
Yeah.
but we're here now. And, in essence, the story is we know about Thor, the
Yeah.
Norse god, and there's that whole
God of Thunder
mythology,
with the
god of thunder.
Mjolnir.
And now they're bringing into the Marvel space, the MCU to be specific. So you've got Odin, who's the king
Yep.
of Asgard.
Anthony Hopkins.
Asgard. Do we even call it a planet? Like, what is their
They
world?
they called it a what is it? It's one of the realms. It's one of the
No,
nine
that I
realms.
do
Yeah.
get, but as far as them specifically, like the actual locale, I don't know if it's a planet or what, but
Yeah.
that's just, where they reside. And I guess to just then expand on the whole realms thing. So, we've got like the entire universe, and then within it, there's different subsections. I mean, for us now in the real
Yeah.
world, in the Milky Way galaxy, as they say, and there's different, elements that you can use in order to divide or refer to various subsections of the universe. Now, with the MCU and Thor's world, what they do is they talk about the nine realms,
Mm.
and they are in a portion of those realms called the Midgard.
Yeah. So that's Earth.
It's Earth, it's Asgard, and then where
There's
the
the Frost
giants
Giants,
live,
Jotunheim.
the Jotunheim.
Jotunheim. Yeah. And then there's
Uh,
six others that they
Yeah,
mention in passing.
Jotunheim. Yeah, yeah. I remember because when I heard the name, I was like, I must try and remember this name. I was trying to remember this name. And then the best way we do it, I was like, Yorole. And then Eraheim. But I was trying to, go back to that mnemonic in my mind. But
Yeah.
anyway, so
Yeah.
that's where they reside. And then where the story takes us is, it speaks on not their origin per se. They just
Mm-mm.
do a little quick recap as far
Yeah,
as
it's
where everyone is in the
so in
world.
essence, I kind of see it as Thor's trials towards ascending the throne.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So again, it's not the history of the Asgard people and Thor's ancestors. It's just their immediate family story that they
yeah,
get to, and they speak about back in the days where on Jotunheim you get your frost giants
mm,
that reside there. So between them and Odin, there was this age-old rivalry, and then they speak about the battle that they had because Odin himself was a great warrior in his day. So he's there kicking ass, taking names, doing his thing, and then they surrendered. And upon their surrendering, he went and took, what they refer to as the casket. But you must recall, especially with Captain America, having already taken place in our chronology, you've got like these Infinity Stones and
yeah.
like it's like
These
various sources of great power.
artifacts, yeah,
Yeah, and one of them is the casket, as they refer to it, and Jotunheim is where it resided. I don't know if it's like their invention or what's the story, but that's just where it was at the time. So upon defeating them, Odin is like, man, this is going to be my trophy. I'm taking
yeah,
it. Goes back to Asgard,
amongst other
raises his
things.
families, and then, his family rather, and then that's that.
Yeah,
Then cut back to the present, basically.
yeah,
We realize that this whole history lesson is Odin telling his victory stories to his sons Loki and Thor. And he is essentially trying to train and prepare them for the day that one of them is to take the throne from him. Because you know how it works with
yeah,
the kingdoms and all of that. You step into the throne, and then when the time is done, it goes to your heir. But in this case, because he's got two sons, any one of them could get it, kind of, sort of. So you again jump a little to
present day.
the present day, aka crowning day, or the
Yeah,
would-be crowning day. This is now where Odin has made his choice. The sons have grown up and are of age.
yeah,
He wants to crown his new king, which is Thor. And in the middle, because you remember everything, it's like procedures, like with the wedding,
yeah.
they actually have to say, hey, do you take so and so? And it's part of the whole thing. And if that isn't completed, then it doesn't count.
Mm,
So Odin had not completed,
yeah.
you know,
The
the
coronation.
the coronation.
Yeah,
Thank you. And That's because the frost giants then somehow made their way into Asgard. Because
Yeah.
the other thing with Asgard is that they've got what they call the Bifrost, which is their gateway into the other worlds and realms. And it's pretty much the way to go in and out. But now these people have just snuck in and then they've started to wreak havoc on the place. But I mean, they are quickly defeated,
Yeah. Trying to steal the casket.
trying to steal back the casket. You know, they are defeated. And with that, Thor isn't a king, but still decides to retaliate against
Yeah.
the Frost Giant. You know, he has a whole thing with his dad saying, "Hey, man, you're weak. They're taking advantage. You got to show them we're still, you know, we're still those people, basically." And his father's like, "No." Thor takes his merry band of bandits. He goes there, and upon returning, his dad is like, "Hey, man, you've defied me. Number one, number two, you were meant to be a king, and this is how you act."
Yeah. What
He's
was
like,
it? It
"Nah, man."
was Thor had to be saved. Thor and his squad had to be saved by Odin
That's the other
after he
thing as well.
explicitly said, "Don't go."
They went there, you know, ready to fight and do whatever it takes. And in the middle of that fight, Odin comes through, he saves them, and he's now gotta talk to Aleki, hey man, you know how kids are, let's just let them be. And our situation is gonna remain the same. So, you know, as part of his reprimand, Odin decides, look, man, because now remember, besides just being part of a kingdom,
Mm.
with them being as guardians as well, there's, you know, certain powers, strengths,
Yeah.
attributes that they possess. And Odin then decides to ban him as punishment. Like, damn, is Earth that bad that people are being sent here as punishment, actually? But anyway, Thor is stripped of his power, number one, and then he's sent to Earth
Yeah.
indefinitely. But, you know, because this is a lesson and not a pure punishment, Odin still sends his hammer,
Yeah.
Mjolnir. He sends it to Earth along with him and, you know, says the famous phrase, whoever holds this hammer, if he be worthy, shall have the power of Thor. So Thor then comes down to Earth, and then we officially get to the point where his story becomes a fish out of water
Yeah.
type of story. But with the family background, it becomes a blend of a Shakespearean story as well, you know, which is like, you know, the whole power
It's
dynamics
also like a
and
coming of age story as well.
coming of age,
Yeah.
because coming of age usually refers to growing up, you know,
Yeah.
in terms of actual years.
But
Although Thor is
Thor's
older, he needs
more
to
maturity. Yeah. So
mature
he
a
comes
bit.
across as very cocky and like a cowboy.
Yes, you know, privileged kid
Yeah.
as
There you
well.
go. Yeah.
So there's all that blended together. Then, you know, he ends up meeting this doctor, Jane Foster.
Yeah.
I always have to say that slow, otherwise I want to say Jane Fonda, you know, the actress. But in any case, then that's where the adventures kind of ensue for Thor. So, well, yeah, that's, you know, a long story less long version of how the events, you know, happen. And then we'll just get into some of the most specific. So I think instead of just saying, you know, what you like, like just straight to it. What's something that, you know, you just want to speak on as far as this movie, something that just jumped out at you?
I liked the chemistry between Thor and Jane Foster. Yeah, like it was similar to Captain America and Peggy.
Agent Carter. Yeah.
It's very subtle but overt at the same time.
Yeah.
And it felt natural. It didn't feel like forced.
Mm-hmm.
So that was, I think that's what I enjoyed quite a bit there. Just a casual love story
Yeah.
coming to fruition. What I also enjoyed was the expansion of the realms. Like in this, I think this is one of the first few now. Obviously, you've got Captain Marvel,
Mm-hmm.
but this is if we're going to when we were watching
Yes.
the
It was the
release
first
order. The
time they
release order is
showed.
the first they
Yeah.
say, "Oh, these are other worlds now. There's more people, more powerful beings than Iron Man or Hulk."
Yeah.
So it was really nice to see the expansion of the universe. What we have now is just it's very expanded. So I don't know how I feel about it now. It's more like a it's good, but now that I know what we've got, I don't know.
Yeah, no, we'll get to it, you know, when the
yeah.
episode comes, but yeah.
So yeah, it was nice to see the expansion of the universe. And I think with this Thor movie, I just liked how simple it was.
Yeah.
Very simplistic, not trying too hard.
Yeah.
And it made for a good watch. Like
Yeah.
yeah, I was watching it and like it wasn't a slog to get through, and it
Yes.
went by a lot
Yes.
quicker than what I anticipated. So yeah, just the ease of watching.
Yeah.
I think I really enjoyed. In terms of characters, I mean, you've got Loki, the introduction of Loki as well.
Yeah, yeah,
Really,
yeah.
really well played by Tom Hiddleston.
Hiddleston, yep.
Yep. So many Toms. It's
Now you got the right one.
Yeah, so really, really well played. His character as well, really good, well written out, because it's Thor, the anointed one, the favorite child, if you say, and then Loki's the second son, the afterthought, and then it's also the way people treat him is actually um, of a lower standard than Thor. So you can see like he was jealous.
Yeah.
The friend group like always thought little of him.
Yeah, don't take him serious at all.
So it was nice to see that portrayal, and then how that pushed him towards the edge, becoming the villain. It wasn't it didn't get all the shine, but it got enough shine, so you can actually see the progression of him becoming the villain.
Yeah.
And he also had his troubled backstory, which was interesting. It's a nice, pleasant surprise if you're watching it for the first time.
Yeah, man. I think he made for quite an interesting character. And I mean, I think we might as well just get into it where he's concerned. So, the frost giants that we referenced earlier, upon not their return, while they were there, one of Thor's, he's got a team of, was it three or four?
Yeah, 4. So the Warriors 3 and
the
Lady
Warriors
Sif.
3 and Lady Sif. So one of the warriors, as they were fighting, they got touched by the frost giant and they started to catch frostbite.
Yeah.
And he warns the others, hey, don't let them touch you. And then everyone is like, okay, on guard. Then Loki, who is not a fighter, by the way, he went in there to join them supposedly to help. And in a scuffle with one of the frost giants, he gets touched. His hand begins to go blue and then it goes back to normal. And he's like, yo, but okay.
Yeah, no frostbite, nothing.
Yeah, but there's no time to dwell on it. You got to keep the fight going. Then he goes, once they return back to Asgard, he's talking to Odin, their father, and he's like, hey, man, what's going on? Because he also had a moment.
Yeah, it was, where was it? He went, he was at the vault, so he was holding the casket and he was turning blue.
Yes, he was.
So for reference, the frost giants are like this deep blue, like this deep royal blue,
basically. Yeah.
And then he touches a casket and he starts going blue like a frost giant. And then Odin was like, "Don't do that."
Yeah.
And then, not even sugarcoating it, is like, "You were an orphan. I took you from the frost giants, and you're the prince of the frost giants, in essence."
Yeah. So basically, that was the second trophy that Odin took, along with the casket when he was when he defeated the frost giants. So in essence, Loki is an adopted son of Odin, which on top of everything we've highlighted, basically, elevates it. You talk about the jealousy, the envy,
and not
being overlooked for the throne.
It's because like kind of like adds in, it's like, oh, is this why all of these things happen to me?
And interestingly enough, which adds to the complexity of Loki as a character, it's like a chicken and egg situation. Is he not worthy of the throne because of the type of person that he is inherently, or is he the type of person he is because people have always treated him as an other? So it's one of those two. And I like how they don't define the line as far as which is which. And there's that lingering question of, did Odin not consider Loki because, again, he's just not worthy of the throne, or is it because he's actually a frost giant and he doesn't want to have them wield that power?
And then that also caused quite a bit of internal strife within him as well, because he's always trying to do what is
forever
best.
Seeking approval.
So like, even when he turned on Asgard, he was doing it so he could save Asgard and get like curry favor.
He wanted to prove himself, essentially, and that's where his villainy, so to speak, comes through. With Loki, it's just a matter of always trying to grab your father's attention and forever wanting to prove that you're good enough. And once more, I'm going to say, it added some complexity to his character. And the thing is that, because again, you're talking about, celestial / super beings.
Think they wouldn't have normal people problems.
And if you want us to relate to them as viewers, you got to bring it, down to earth, so to speak. So I think this was a good way of doing it, because again, touching on the Shakespearean theme, we all understand family dynamics, be it personal or vicarious. If it's not your own family, someone in a family where there's some sort of dysfunction, there's one being favored over the others, and the stripes that can cause. So Loki's arc, we also then discover that he's the one who let the frost giants in that disrupted the coronation earlier on. So he's discovered some back doors in and out of Asgard, which is befitting because he's the god of mischief.
Yeah.
And what is it? Is it illusions or deceptions? It's like something else, but he's like a naughty child, but he's like the god of naughty children, so to speak. As well, yeah. All the little tricks that he does, because I mean, we see he's able to create like mirages, images of himself, and fooling people and all of that. So this is essentially something that stems from his frostbite bloodline, assumingly. And who knows if he's maybe taught something there at Asgard. But yeah, it's never fully addressed. The point is, he's the one who let them in order to cause that disruption with the intention of saving the day and hopefully proving to Odin that, hey man,
I'm good enough.
I'm the guy who's actually supposed to be king, which is why they came through at that specific moment. Number one. Number two, Loki's also the one who caused their defeat. Because remember, there's that destroyer guy.
Yeah.
And it seems as though, I don't know if it's throughout or in certain moments, but Loki controls that creature from what we see.
Whoever wields the spear.
So as in
Odin's spear.
Whoever's in charge of Asgard, then okay, so he's a soldier to that person then. Okay.
So I think because when Loki was the king,
then that's where he then had that power. Okay, that also
and that was quite cool. They established the destroyer's power very early on and be like, oh, these giants, we've had problems, but one eye beam later.
I was gonna say, it's not just the power, but the magnitude of the power as well. Because I was like, oh, that's how quick they defeated them. Because I mean, I haven't seen this movie in a number of years. So it was also nice, to just get back into that. I mean, I've said even with Iron Man 2 that the early Marvel, watching those movies just brings about this lovely feeling. But to flesh out the rest of Loki's arc.
So I think Loki and Thor made for a nice comparison because one is always trying to prove themselves. And one already has everything. It feels like they have nothing to prove.
Yeah.
And it was a nice opposite sides of the same coin kind of story.
Yeah. And Loki was definitely always on the ball as far as trying to prove himself, which
and
again
and the manipulation as well. Very
that's what I'm getting. It's one of those things where you look at him and you're like, ish, you understand where he's coming from, or you're just like, ah man, you're evil. Because with Thor then being banished to Earth,
and then
Loki takes full advantage. He's like, yo man, firstly, I'm gonna take the throne, because what happened is in the middle of a fight, between Odin and Loki.
Yeah, so when Odin discovered Loki at the
casket, and when Odin tells him the truth.
And then Odin had a heart attack, kind of.
Yeah. He had a heart attack, fell into a coma. And Odin, it's so funny when I hear them refer to some of these things. I'm like, these guys, the Asgardians, they're like the Apple of of the cosmos, because they want to have a special name for every little thing. So Odin fell into a coma and they call it like the Odin sleep. And I'm like, yo man, just call it a coma. But yeah, that's a small little detail I picked up on. So now, with Thor being banished and Odin being unfit to rule, Loki then steps in and takes the throne.
Because he's the only one left.
Exactly. But there's still this other guy out there on Earth. Powers or not, he's still a threat. So Loki's like, you know what? While you're there, I'm gonna command. We spoke about the Bifrost, right?
Heimdall,
Heimdall.
Just Elba for the...
Not, I keep trying to remind myself, don't say Heimlich. That's not his name. Heimdall. So he's the gatekeeper. Literally. He's literally the gatekeeper and the guy in charge of the Bifrost. He opens and closes it as and when necessary. So Loki gives an order. Say, hey, no matter what, don't open this door. Don't let anyone in or out. Secondly, as Thor begins to come into his own on Earth, Loki sends the destroyer after him to ensure once again that he's not going to come back and take over the throne. And in between the two, because you recall, Thor's hammer is also on Earth. Thor went looking for it, and upon trying to pick it up, he was unable to because he's still unworthy. Remember, he was sent there because he's a rich, spoiled brat who refuses to listen and has not shown the virtues of a hero and a king in particular. So while he's there, his Thor now, his romance with Dr. Foster is budding and growing, and Loki decides to take a detour to Earth to see if he can actually wield the hammer.
So straight after he tells or lies to Thor,
yes,
he checks if he's worthy, and then it's also a really cool scene there because like you're still trying to prove yourself,
and the subtlety with which he tried to do it, But yeah, speak on what he lied to Thor about.
Oh, so as we mentioned, he told Thor that Odin is dead, and that Odin's last wish was for Thor to be banished on condition that if Thor is banished, then the war with the frost giants won't happen.
Yes.
So he basically guilt tripped Thor into staying on Earth, and then making him feel bad, and then taking the throne for himself.
Yeah,
which is very, very, very conniving.
Yeah, which is something that's literally the god of. Yeah. And so because Thor was now kept prisoner essentially by Shield, it was again interesting to watch Shield in action. And in that particular moment, because what they also did, Jane Foster would go around looking for these celestial anomalies.
Basically the Bifrost.
The Bifrost was causing shifts in what she was studying and following. And if you think of like the Aurora Borealis, Northern Lights, like the green stars, so to speak, when the skies change colors and so on, it's one of the things that Jane follows. And upon chasing one of them, that's where Thor was coming through the Bifrost, because again, it's causing a shift in the atmosphere and that sort of thing. Very scientific and technical, which we don't know much about, of course. So just bear with us on this portion. And that's where the two of them meet. And Thor is telling them, "Hey, I'm this guy. I'm meant to be a king. I come from another world."
Yeah, and he wasn't very humble about it at all.
And at the same time, you can imagine how that sounds. You bump into a random stranger and they're telling you about,
the desert.
I've got all these powers and I'm not from Earth. And exactly, they found him in the middle of a desert and it's like, what is going on? And in their case, they are also aware of the general mythology of the Norse gods. So, from Thor to Loki, Odin, and everyone else, because there were times where the Asgardians would actually come to Earth. And according to this movie, it's the reason why we got our ice caps and possibly the ice age, that sort of thing, because the frost giants once came here and then they were wreaking havoc, because one of their abilities is just, I don't know if you want to call it like spreading or turning, freezing things. Let's put it that way, freezing things. So there were some people that witnessed them, or at least took record of their existence. And then it becomes a thing where some humans start to worship them or just pass on their tales. So now it's like, man, you're the guy from the stories you've been hearing about. That does not translate, So that's what added to the skepticism that they had. And eventually, when Thor does find his hammer, Shield has already come upon it. Because remember, I don't think we got into this already, but Shield is responsible for protecting Earth. In the same way, if you think about the FBI, you look for threats, against America in particular. Shield, they do that for the whole world when it comes to threats from outside of Earth specifically. So they also, of course, were aware that Thor or something came to Earth from out there. They find the hammer, they wall it off,
barricaded,
and then they got their security on it while they do their studies. That's where Thor found it. He couldn't lift the hammer because it wasn't worthy.
And he was shattered.
He was shattered.
His ego was destroyed.
Yes, because he really believed that I'm still that guy. Because remember, it's also the very first time he's attempting this.
Yeah.
Because he said, no, I find my hammer. Once I pick it up, I can fly. I can do all of this thing. He's never been unable to wield it. So that is also quite cathartic, because besides everything that's already taken place, him being banished, and then he didn't know his father was supposedly dead at this point, but just him being banished and losing his powers.
Yeah.
It's like they didn't fully drive the point home when he wasn't able to wield the hammer, because you can only do that when you're a worthy person. Yeah. That's where it really set in for him that, oh, okay, I think I've actually, screwed up over here. And minutes later, Loki tells him, hey, man, Dad is dead. And he said that he wants you to remain here in order for us to have peace. So then it creates another, layer of internal conflict for him. And he figures, you know what? It's fine. I'll just live out my days here on Earth, honor my dad's dying wish. But the merry band of bandits, the three warriors and Lady Sif,
they want to come bring him back.
So, because they were like, nah. something is off here. Why is Loki king? He's not our true king. We're gonna go and get Thor in the same manner that he went to the Frostbites to fight for us. We're gonna go and fight for him as well. Not to mention the times he's saved us and has been there for us. And when they arrive on Earth, Loki's like, "Uh-oh, something is wrong. I need to do something about this."
That's when he sends the destroyer down.
Yeah.
And that ensues that's when the final battle ensues.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, so it's the destroyer. Everyone's getting beaten up, and then Thor does the ultimate sacrifice, and then gets severely injured. But what I liked about it is Thor went to the hammer initially, but then the hammer came to him.
Yeah. And also, I think just to speak on how that even came to be, because remember, now his friends, and also now Earth, which as part of his Asgard duties and would be kingdom duties, they need to ensure its protection. Now this destroyer from Asgard is wreaking havoc. He needs to step in. His friends are getting hurt, and
he's protect the people as well.
He's been told now by his friends that no, your dad is alive, and it clicks for him that no, man, Loki lied to me, and so he's the reason why this destroyer is here. So he then goes to it and speaks directly to Loki through it to say, "Look, dude, fine, let these people go. I'm the one you want, so do your thing." And then that's where he's dealt, the almost fatal blow, basically. Yeah. And now because he was going to literally sacrifice himself
to protect others,
his worthiness was restored.
What we wouldn't have done before. Because that,
it was
he wanted to start a war just for like
out of arrogance instead of being in service of people. So then his worthiness was restored, and that's where he was able to wield his hammers. As you said, first he had to go to it, as part of his journey, and now the hammer is flying directly to him because remember, the whole thing about being worthy, Odin almost spoke it's not a curse, man. I don't know. It's almost like a spell on Mjolnir. And one of the other elements that we maybe sometimes forget is the fact that Mjolnir is also meant to be Thor's protector, which is why as Thor was dying, the hammer went directly to him instead of him having to, because, he didn't really have the strength to do that in any case. So Mjolnir's like, yo, he's worthy. Let me go and get my dude and, let's kick some ass and take some names.
Hammer.
And with having that, Thor, he destroys the destroyer and he and his friends are able to go back to Asgard and confront Loki. Now, I think, man, as far as, some of the specifics and so on, Thor, if you think about it, especially the reputation out there, it's also not one of the more revered movies. But for me, every time I watch it, as much as I do it once every few years, I realize it's not as bad as people make it out to be.
Yeah, upon the rewatch, I was like, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I think the sequels and what came after that's where, like, you know what I'm saying, people are not looking at it independently. They're looking at it as a whole.
Yeah. I think, for me, I watched it and I was like, no, man. Although, funny enough, it's not too dissimilar from how I felt about Iron Man. I was like, I see where you're going with it, but there's, a few things that you could have done, to explain this whole situation a bit better. I think one of them is back at Asgard. We could have seen a little more of Asgard itself, and the family dynamics could have been emphasized a bit more. They rushed through it.
I think you saw it with the sons and the dad, but I think more of the mom would have helped as well.
I was going to say the mom was sidelined unnecessarily. That could have been another element to show how painful it now is to be separated from a family and the jealousy and all these other things that each son was facing. I think that was a huge missed opportunity, and possibly because again the Thor story isn't new. It's well-established mythology, so I think there was that assumption that let's not hammer it too hard because people are aware. But I'm like, it's not about rehashing everything. It's just a matter of fleshing out the story basically and giving motivation to the events that follow. So that was one thing I would have loved to see a bit more from them. And then the other thing is the battles, man. The whole thing with the destroyer. He's a destroyer. Let him destroy. You could have done a little more on that front. And I think even the fights with him and his friends, I don't know if we saw enough just from the Frostbite fight earlier in the movie. It could have been whether it's in that fight or this latter one with the destroyer, where we see why these guys are so high ranking. Where the whole fighting thing is concerned. That is one of the things I feel like,
Yeah.
it would have been nice to see. I don't
I
know,
get
is maybe
that.
anything else for you, like you could have,
No, I think what you mentioned there, the
Yeah.
fight choreography, maybe, if you want to make it more actiony. Yeah, no, I can't think too much.
For me, the one other thing there would
Maybe
be
strife. Yeah.
the timeline, so to speak, because again,
Mhm.
as I said, with those stories, like they rush through everything, but on Earth, it was a similar thing where I feel as though everything could have taken place over 2 3 days. And remember now, Thor is banished. Stretch it out a little more. Let him feel that isolation from home. Let him really
Oh,
miss
okay.
it. Then, drag it out. That realization that, damn,
Yeah.
I'm now literally a mortal. I'm just a normal human being. That life that I knew is gone. And there's a little more you could have done, because it's almost like just as soon as he was beginning to assimilate, then all of a sudden
It's going back.
resets back to zero. So I think, those were some of the elements. But outside of that, I would even go as far as to say Loki may have been the best part of this movie, because he
Of
was the
course.
one character where you can't really say he should have done anything more. Everything he did was well justified, well executed, and understandable.
And he maximized, like Tom Hiddleston maximized his minutes.
Yes. You could really see his emotions as far as, I really want your approval, Dad. Oh, I'm so jealous of you.
I think it was at the beginning, during the coronation. He didn't say a single word, but his facials,
Yes.
like, just conveyed exactly what he was feeling.
Yeah, man. Like
So,
he displayed some amazing skill in this movie, and
imagine if he was Thor, because I think he auditioned for Thor.
he auditioned for. That's how
Thor,
they discovered him. Yeah, he wanted to play Thor. They were like, nah, not quite. But there's a role that we
If he
think
had more muscles, bro.
you can. There's another role that is definitely better suited for you.
And look, the casting perfect there.
Proper, man. Everyone landed exactly.
Loki's still going. I mean, all of the originals are basically done with Marvel, but he's still going.
Exactly.
Still making
because
content.
even the fans agree that, nah, man, what this guy is doing is pretty incredible. And what I liked about Loki in particular, above everything else we've already said, is just that internal struggle that you could always see within him. He wasn't evil for the sake of being evil. It was always just a matter of
He's justifying his evil. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't want to be this, but I have to be this.
And I mean, it says something when you're watching a villain and you don't automatically want them to lose. You almost kind of feel bad for them and understand where they're coming from. That speaks to, what an amazing job he did. And I think, as far as everything else, look, with Thor, it's more a matter of his casting. I think Chris Hemsworth definitely did, an amazing job in that space.
Yeah, it's got the aesthetic as well. Like, looks like a
god. Like a god. And the other thing is just like with everything else, man, like flesh it out a bit more. Even the relationship with Jane. It's one thing to see an attractive person and fall in love, but because now remember, there's
like, you could see the chemistry, like,
there were hints there, but like delve into it. And if they had showed him spend more time on Earth, maybe we could have also, brought a lot more into that, because this is like
as to why he's saving Earth as well, like the motivation behind saving Earth.
And also her being his one true love. You gotta really drive that through. Don't just put the two of them in one room and then automatically expect us to fall in line. I think those were the key elements that I enjoyed. But other than that, everything else, it was good. Could have been a lot better. I don't know, is there anything else that maybe like stood out to you? We got our intro of Hawkeye in this movie as well.
Yes, was that the intro for him? Yeah, I just see him there. I was like, oh, okay. What is it? Little Easter egg. Thor's alter ego, Donald Blake.
So Dr. is that Donald
Blake. In the comics, that's his alter ego.
Okay,
so it's like Clark Kent for Superman.
Because in this movie, Donald Blake is Jane Foster's
ex-boyfriend, but it's the Easter egg to be.
When S.H.I.E.L.D. then captures Thor, basically,
Donald Blake.
They use Donald Blake. Thor's it's Jane's dad, nah? Is the homie the dad? No. I'm talking about the guy who came to pick up Thor.
Eric Selvig.
Yeah, is he just a colleague? Okay, so Jane Foster's colleague. When he went to plead Thor's case, say, "Ish, yo, this is just a guy who's lost his mind. Don't worry, he's not a threat. I'm gonna take him with me." He told them that Thor's name is actually Donald Blake. And what I love, I don't think I've picked up on this before. What I love is that because in my mind, as he's given the story, I'm like, but surely Shield of all people can dig through the holes in this.
And then it was like it shows falsified, but Coulson's just like,
yeah,
okay.
on the screen they show that they are aware that that ID is fake. Yeah. And Coulson, which again, I love that it justified him in his role.
Yeah.
He's got the wherewithal to say, oh, okay, no, fine, you can take him with, just keep him out of trouble, out of bars. And then he says to one of his guys, go follow them. Yeah. Because they need to, because remember, story, even at this point, they only know so much. Because remember, for them, it's also their first encounter.
With the Navy.
You didn't even have S.H.I.E.L.D. the last time, these guys were around. So you don't have any archives to dig into. So it's a matter of, we don't know what this guy's story is, but clearly he's got something to do with whatever's going on. Let's follow him and uncover the truth, which is exactly what happened. So I think that is also like a brilliant and very, very smart move, both on the writing and even for the character of Coulson.
It just shows Coulson's not like the butt of jokes or a putz. He's actually
just a stooge.
He's a cerebral thinker.
Yeah, exactly. So I enjoyed that one quite a bit. It was fun to watch them do the whole thing where everyone was trying to pick up. They don't know what it is, of course. They just know it as
they call it a satellite. That trope is followed through many.
But in this one also, I definitely didn't mind it. Like,
it was really cool. He just put the hammer on Loki and he couldn't move.
But we're watching all the humans try to grab it. And of course, you got one of our Stan Lee cameos. I mean, it's been how many years now? And I got to the point of almost forgetting that
he's cameoing.
That Stan Lee would have cameos in every Marvel movie. So when I saw him, I was like, oh, yeah.
It's always a nice
I see you. That was a cool little one there.
But I also liked, I like the aesthetic of the Frost Giants. Just the art, the concept of how they were.
They design
CGI, how they design. There you go. That's the word.
They're pretty cool.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, and I think now I don't know if it's the curse of knowledge because we know literally everything that takes place after this. But when I look back on like Thor's costume, I like later iterations a lot more.
Yeah.
But I do recall liking it when I first saw it. So even now, not that it's a bad costume, they've evolved from it, but it was still a pretty cool one. And I remember. Who was it? Was it Jane or the other the intern that works with them? Who was like, "Oh, is that what you normally wear? That's actually pretty cool." And I was like, "I like that they put that in there because it really was, a cool costume that he had." So I think, man, the design Asgard, like hella beautiful.
Yeah, always.
Heimdall,
Bifrost, Heimdall.
The colors, Idris Elba, great casting.
Yeah.
I don't know if
costume design was really good. Yeah,
it was pretty on point for everyone, man.
Yeah.
I don't know if they ended up dropping the ball in later iterations or what, but his voice, Heimdall's voice, seemed almost very unique compared to what I was expecting. So I don't know if this is the only time we get to hear him in that form or what, but whatever the answer is, I actually enjoyed it quite a lot because it also kind of spoke to his regal essence and his power that he's got. And the fact that, again, remember, all these guys, they're pretty much gods, you know, they aren't mere mortals. So I enjoyed that bit quite a lot. I mean, the eyes, the helmets, everything, man, was just incredible for me. I think, other stand-up moments, I think we've pretty much touched on all of them. I don't think there's anything else. I guess with that said, what's your rating then out of 10 for this?
I'd go 6.
Yeah.
6.
Yeah. I'm with you. I think I also give it a 6. Fun watch, but again, whether it's a curse of knowledge or what, when you know better iterations, it's hard to give these other guys too much of a pass.
Unbiased.
Exactly.
Comments and thoughts. Yeah, so I'd say 6. A rewatchable movie. I would say stood the test of time. You can go back and rewatch it after years and still enjoy it.
I think in the hierarchy of origin stories.
Yeah, definitely one of the better ones.
Yeah. I think
in the middle, kind of.
It's not in like the top tier list, but it's definitely not at the bottom, as a lot of people might end up implying. As I said, it's got quite the bad reputation out there, but I think
But I think that's more, as you say, curse of knowledge.
Yeah. As you go through the others, but I remember even at the time there were some people. There was quite a large number of people that were like, "Nah, this ain't really it," because I think they were expecting a lot more from it. Because again, it's like, oh, Thor, this this is God, and the reputation that they had, with Iron Man and with Hulk was pretty great. So I think they wanted them to maintain
Yeah.
it and felt as though they kind of felt short. But that's pretty much our take on it. As per
Yeah.
usual, you let us know if you agree, if you disagree,
Yeah.
and just exactly how you feel about it.
Mm.
And then that's then pretty much it for this one.
So yeah.
And we'll just catch you at the next one. As you know, we're going through our
Yeah,
chronology
movie by movie here.
between the Marvel world, the DC world, and I mean, as at the
And
time of recording, there's going to be quite a gap before these guys resume their respective universes
universe,
as well.
yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see if we can get everything done by then, and then from that point onwards, we do like a real time review, especially because both camps are kind of at a
Crossroads,
reboot,
yeah,
yeah,
kind of
crossroads
thing,
slash
yeah.
reboot phase. But yeah,
Figuring out their identity again.
all in good time. As per usual, catch us everywhere you see
Yeah.
the Phantom Geek Zone.
Instagram, YouTube.
Instagram, YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah.
Stay following, stay tuned, and then we'll
Peace.
catch you with the next one.
Right.